Hey guys, it's Avenger, welcome back to the channel, and I'm not normally one to do a video on a sound pack, but this one is very nice, and I really like it. I was sent this, of course, by Echo19 themselves, so I'm putting that up ahead. I was sent this, but oh boy, you know, the right sounds could make a difference to an aircraft, and make me want to fly it. Now, given that we've now had the announcement that Coronado's 172 Retro is coming out, and likely it's going to use sounds lazy from the standard 172, there's a good chance we're about to have something really smexy. But either way, this is Echo19's 172 Precision Audio Pack. Now, this is not any normal sound pack, where you just get a bunch of different sounds. You also get this livery, which is kind of cool, because look at this. It's a battered, worn-out old 172. It's just delivery is included, but it's nice to have something like this. It just looks a little bit lived in. Okay, a little bit very lived in. Let's pull our bits and bobs off the aircraft here, make sure we're all good to go. And I'm going to talk about this first because this is using their proprietary Echo FX sound engine they're using here to dynamically layer and recreate the aircraft's behaviour and react to what the aircraft's doing, sorry. So you'll hear dirt, ground rumble, cabin squeaks. This is really cool because this is innovative English when you're looking at how the flight sim world reacts to things. Now, this is available for the sim. You can buy it from Orbex. Chances are it'll be available on the marketplace later. But for now, it's on Orbex for 18 Australian dollars, so not much in terms of like £10 in the English pennies. But we'll talk more in detail after as we get going. But I just want to basically look around this and hop in here. Because it's the nuances of little things. Tiny little things. Even the controls moving around. Even the tiniest little things here in the cockpit and cabin, we can feel these. And they do make a big difference to it. Oh, I need to turn the battery on for that first, so. And it's everything down to switches as well here. We'll definitely enjoy opening the windows once we're flying here to get this thing going, but let's make sure we are ready to rock here so we can do this. Crack the throttle. So let's put the fuel pump on here. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do this without this first for a second so you can hear the difference there, because that should be a thing. In fact, we'll just try this. Okay, there's no difference in the sound when the fuel's actually cut off and the pump's pumping dry versus pumping wet, so that would actually be a difference. Okay. But it's even every little control in the aircraft that has a different sound to it now. The breaker sound, everything here. Clear prop. Ooh. That's meaty, isn't it? Now, let me pop back into the cabin for a second while I make sure I've got my parking brake on. Oh, that's the fuel. I just cut off there. That's parking brake. You hear that brrrr sound? I've not heard that in many actual sound packs in the sim. It's the low RPM sound. I wish you'd sod off, truck. But listen to this. Listen when you hear that burble, that brrrr on the edge of the sound. That. You don't hear that. You very, very, very rarely hear that kind of whipping sound. Listen to that. Right in the actual tail of the actual airflow. You almost hear the wind whipping around you. That's gorgeous. Wind noises, nice and vivid. Oh, love that. Now, we're going to do more than just basically sit here, because we want to actually hear the aircraft moving, so. Altimeter's on, that's on there. Now, we are at a reasonable altitude for this not to be a problem. So, let's get our parking brake off, let's go flying. And if you are curious, there we go. Where we are today, we're flying from Mariazell, Lima Oscar Golf Mike, Mariazell to Trieben, which is Lima Oscar Golf India. We're in Austria today. This sounds like a tractor, which 172s really do. I'm taxiing around the grass on purpose here. You hear all the bumping and shuddering, creaking. Listen to this tractor. It sounds terrible. It sounds arthritic. It sounds like a 172. Or at least the more battered ones. I rather actually like this. I mean, there's more to an aircraft sound than just hearing the engine sound. It's a whole experience of you're sitting in a moving thing, and they're not super sturdy in many cases, meaning that, you know, it's quite easy for it to rattle and creak. Hear little sounds and nuances. Even the brakes here. It's the little sounds that make such a big difference to this. You can hear the buzz of the flaps coming down there. Okay, so we should be good for our takeoff here. Let's make sure our head is on the tracking. Not a particularly long flight, but it's enough for us to get a real feel of this aircraft and how it sounds. Like I said, I was sent this by them, but I've just fallen in love with the detail of this. And if they're going to be making more sound packs like this, I'm going to be very excited. Now, I know we're not necessarily going to see the same level with every single sound they do for other aircraft, but it'd be wonderful if they did. Okay, airspeed's alive. Okay, and I'm going to pitch for takeoff. Hearing that change in tone there. And honestly, it could be something as simple as sounds that make humble 172 really enjoyable to fly. Because they're not a particularly complicated aircraft, but with the right TLC and love, I mean, what do we have here? A really pretty sounding aircraft. It has an autopilot, it has GPS functions, tablets in the actual cockpit, all the little things we really want are right there. Now, forget how to make the default tablet disappear. I know I normally click on something and I can never work out which it is, but oh well, we'll survive. Like I say, not a super long trip today. It says 27 minutes, but it's lying. It's not that far at all. Should be about 15 minutes at most. Unless it's on all sorts of crack and it's telling us we're much further away than we are. So there we go, it's flying down now. Okay, let's get ourselves set in the RPM range. We're looking for about 23. There we go. Those flaps are coming up. And we are settled out nicely here. So I'll put that window open again, shall we? Hopefully give you a meatier mix of the audio for this flight today. So you get to appreciate a bit of this sound. Oh, that was set automatically there. Now we're going to get a bit higher up here, get some of the Alps to handle, so it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, it's a 172. It's not exactly an Alpine climbing monster, but it should do us just fine. Bit of a lean there, should be just okay. And what I will do whilst we're actually still... Once we have a little altitude, I'll throw into a stall for you, because that's surprisingly one of its nicest and most realistic effects, because you'll hear that stall horn changing pitch as your airspeed drops, as your angle of attack increases, and it really makes a big difference to that in terms of how it sounds. Let me show this is up here. There we go. Now in terms of the details we got from the guys at Echo19, so it's like I said, the proprietary Echo FX sound engine they're using, which has dynamic layering, which is not what the default sounds actually tend to do. And it allows it to react to actual aircraft behaviour in the sim, so you'll hear things like dirt, ground rumble, cabin squeaks, so... You hear that? You can always hear the creak. You can hear a bit of a squeak there from the stall horn from the angle of attack, but... You can hear that rustling creak sound. Now, remember when A2A did the AccuSound thing? Or the AccuFeel? Remember that one? This is giving me vibes of AccuFeel. Now, it's an individual aircraft, I realise that. It's not a whole thing for all aircraft, but this gives me vibes of AccuFeel in terms of the creaking and the rumbling and the burbles and the little bits of atmospheric effects that you'd want to hear. I'm Not making that, so I'm turning this way. Oh no, we can cut across that, so we should be okay, but I have to be very careful here. You're hearing that stall horn dynamically creeping in. I just turn here. Don't squeal. You can just hear it creeping in, and we're very close to trees. Far closer than I'd ever like to be. There we go. No problem. Get around there. And we should be good to go. See, I like to say the stall horn, you can hear it varying in the pitch there depending on our angle of attack, which is very realistic. So levers, knobs, all have spatially placed sounds there. And they've got it in really high quality too. We're talking like 96 kilohertz. So rather nice to pick up all the little nuances of the real depth of the sound. And, you know, you can hear the fuel slosh, you know, in the tank levels depending on maneuvers. Airflow changes in the cabin, air and heat knobs and things, alternator whine. You can toggle that sort of thing on and off. So it's really neat to have these little features in there being little environmental sensors that you could really kind of sense your aircraft around you. Because it's more than just hearing the engine, it's more than just hearing a bit of wind, it's a whole experience of the airframe. Okay, so we dealt with that bit of altitude there, so we should be fine. You know what, I had bags of power to spare. I could have put some power on here. I could have poured the coal on, and we'd have cleared that hill the first time, no problem, but I was sitting there at my Cruise 23. And just minding my own business, apparently. Let's twizzle the old EGT a second. That's the Badger. Leaning off based on my EGT, so if you've not done that before, I'm leaning for altitude right now, so I'm coming up to 4,600. And you'll notice my EGT's just gone up on this, on the left there. Right here. Yeah? So when I reach, notice it dropping. Now the exhaust gas temperature raises as we get more efficient combustion. As we go up in altitude, we get thinner air. As we get thinner air, our fuel mixture, which is why we have a lever for it, our fuel-air mixture needs to be changed. That's why it's called the mixture knob. Because that affects how much fuel is being introduced to the engine, right? So as I pull that lever back, I'm reducing the amount of air, or fuel. Because when we have too much fuel and not enough air, we are rich. And we are too lean when we have not enough fuel for the air. So right now, I'm pulling it back, and I'm basically leaning based on my exhaust gas temperature and seeing where it's peaking off. It's about there. I'm going to nudge it just a touch up. But that's giving us our most efficient fuel burn, essentially, which will keep the aircraft behaving itself. So what you're getting here today is a little bit of a bush flight, a bit of a lesson, and some audio adventures, which is rather nice. Ooh, that's our cabin air. There's the heater. I can almost feel the warm air coming off that one. Cabin air. You know, it almost makes the stock 172 feel like a much more luxurious add-on. Because obviously it would have been 24 native. We have the opening doors and windows. We have the chocks and the tie-downs and covers, which are already a premium feature from 2020. And now adding a really nice premium sound pack on this, it makes the whole aircraft feel so much more... That's weird. That's very weird that we don't get the sounds from opening the passenger window. Very strange indeed. I'll show my track here. I'm wobbling off course again. That's what happens when I go looking around the airplane and talking to you lot. I end up not paying attention. Got 110 knots right now across the ground, which is really good for us. It's about what we're indicating. Nice. About 15 minutes and we'll be there, so no time at all. Trieben we've been in before, so it should be a nice simple approach for that one. And get us on the ground as we get there. Pop this up for you here. We'll go to our flight planner. So we today are flying from here to here. Now, Salzburg's about here. Or, well, there. No, that's Linz. Pretty sure we're looking for around here somewhere. Yeah, here we are, Salzburg. Right there. That's where we are in Austria. We're just in this kind of eastern fringe. There we go. What was I looking for? Oh, yes. So we're flying in here to Trieben. We'll be taking runway 29 is our approach in. Nice and simple. Working stations and parkings over here. Clear the runway before the halfway point. We should be just grand. Nice and easy. Now, when I say this is about 18 Australian dollarinos on the Orbex store, I believe there's a way to switch that across to my... Ah, here we go. So it's 14.99 American dollarinos. It is 12.42 euros, or yo-yos, depending on if you're an island or not, and 10 English pounds. So, really, really cheap. Now, it is based on the N model, of course, with the flat motor positioning there, of course, and other bits and pieces here. Even kind of audible hair and heat exchange battery contactor clicks from the outside of the aircraft, so we'll hear that once we're stationary, really. And you've got toggleable vintage-style gyro sounds via the marker sensitivity switch. Ooh. That should be the gyro sound we're hearing. Yeah, vintage style gyro sounds, which means if this sound pack is, if basically the 172 sound pack or this sound pack is pulling to the vintage 172 that Coronado just announced today, they're releasing an early model with the fastback on it, you know, based on the 170 fuselage. Having those old school gyro sounds will be very accurate for that, so that's actually kind of cool, is it not? But no, tons of super cool features to this, and really show us what the aircraft can be here. Now, speaker is toggling the SFX and optional alternator whine. So we'll turn that on for now and see what that sounds like. So we'll hear it more when we're actually stationary. 10 minutes now, we're picking up some good speed here. Make sure we clear this ridge line in front of us. Should be no problem whatsoever. I need to turn my head down back on so we can look around here. But for a simple thing as a Cessna 172, it really makes a difference to that. And honestly, for that kind of price, that's cool. Like, I will always sing the praises of cheaper add-ons, add-ons that are very going to be affordable to the average simmer, because the flight sim market can be very expensive, and it's very easy to basically go, I know how much my thing's worth and how much work it's going to be, I can charge a higher price. And in the past, people would have done, but I think we've seen a big difference and a shift in how people recognize the market share in the far bigger market, 2020 and 24, whereby which we have more people able and willing to purchase add-ons. Meaning smaller enhancements and changes and improvements can be released, even full add-ons, for less money. Now, for £10, relatively speaking, you're not paying the full price of an aircraft, which I would think would be crazy for a sound pack, even a really detailed one like this. But, oh, I love that. Sorry, that really makes me happy. But in this particular case, obviously, you are spending about half. As the average price, let's say now, is £20. I think that's a fair bet to make. About £20 is our average add-on cost for an aircraft. And it's certainly the retail price of a Coronado plane, so about average. Now, you're paying half the price of an Addon for a sound pack. Is it worth it? Well, it takes a default aircraft, which obviously having one of the higher end versions of the Sim, Premium Deluxe, I have the Steam Gauge 172. Obviously, this is all working the same on the G1000, on the other versions of the 172, so this will also work in career mode, by the way. So your banner towing, parachuting, this will add improvements to your experience in those aircraft and give you a better enjoyment. Which should hopefully be pretty fun. And like I said, if this is being a number of aircraft that use the same engine, pull the 172 sound, so it'd be cool if they have improvements by accident there. It may only work to the 172, being that it's specific in terms of switches and other effects and functions in the cockpit, so it may simply be that it does not work in other ones. But if Echo19 wants to make an update to support Coronado's Retro 172, I would not say no. But, yes. Either way, even if it's just on this aircraft, it's a big change in how it's actually sounding, and I'm excited to see if they can do more. Because there are other aircraft that have particularly lacking sounds in them. The Super Cub is one of them. No, the Cubcrafters Cub X is a bit flat, and it's one of the ones I like quite a lot. The Beaver would absolutely benefit from an improvement in sounds. It's not bad, but it could be much better. That would benefit from a precision pack. And he's talked to me about a couple of things he's working on, so I can't spill the beans there. But it'll be very cool if any of those things could come to fruition. Because adding to the experience of the Sim, I think, is one of the most valuable things we could pay for as an add-on. It's changing how we experience the Sim. I could fly around the Sim in the stock 172 forever, and it'll always be the same. But with something like this, to improve that experience and make it more visceral, make me feel more like I'm in the aircraft, hearing the creaks and groans, the wind, the sounds of the aircraft behaviour on the ground, it adds to that experience. And even the tractory putt-putt when we were taxiing, that's super authentic to Cessnas. They do sound a little agricultural when you're taxiing around at low RPM, so that's definitely a thing. But, yeah, no, in this case, it's... I may be waxing a little bit lyrical, but I'm enthused, as I'm sure you can tell, and I didn't think I'd be this enthused by a sound pack. I thought I'd be pleasantly interested, intrigued, possibly even, oh, I might take a look at it. In fact, admittedly, that was my first response when he sent it me was, oh, I'll probably take a look. It's a 172. But honestly, it makes it actually kind of fun to fly. And whilst, yeah, I might like the 182Q from Coronado, because it's a little bit faster, and a little bit nicer looking in terms of the interior, it's not that much nicer. And this now sounds a heck of a lot better. And we have the mounted tablet, which is also very nice. I like seeing the mounted tablet in my cockpits because I've always been very much of the adding stuff to your airplane kind of philosophy when it comes to the sim world. So seeing tablets on yokes or on cockpit mounts, I always used to love that back in the day, and one of my favourite features that I'm very, very sad that Coronado did not bring when they brought the 185 into and you UFSXers will know this, when they brought the 185 and the variants of that to 2024. And it didn't have the Garmin Color Map 295 here. Now, the Color Map 295 is an older GPS, older than these ones. And yeah, by emphasizing colour in the name, it was literally a colour GPS, which was fairly new when those were coming out. So it was before the 530 and 430 built-in units in your panel. No. This was a handheld GPS unit you suction cup mounted to your windshield, or you mounted on the glare shield of your aircraft to have GPS functionality. In fact, my instructor had one that he brought into whichever training aircraft he was operating in. So yeah, I love that because it had that much more kind of owned aircraft with personal touches in it feel. And whilst every 172 in this sim has that thing stuck there, and the stock planes do, I like seeing because to me it feels like it's my plane. I wish it wasn't there, and there's quite a few planes where I hate where it's positioned, notably the Albatross where it's above my head. But you live and learn. No sounds from the floodlight switches, that's okay. Right. Should be minutely distant away here. Just past this mountain in front of us. I'm just going to turn my head tracking off for a second and reset it because it's being a little bit special. There we go. Click, clack, click. Sometimes you get kind of wonky terrain and textures and details. Sometimes it looks pretty nice. Almost like a little Dolomite down here. I'm not sure if we're in the right part of the world for the Dolomites. No, we're definitely not in the right part of the world for the Dolomites. But it has a similar kind of geological structure to the Dolomites there. They are in Italy. But I don't... No, we might be in the southern ends of the Dolomites actually here. Because it's just below that portion of Austria, so... We're kind of heading towards it. We're not quite there. But the Dolomites are below the Alps, so... No, we're still in the Alps here. Do excuse my geography nerding. But they are technically the Dolomite Alps, so it's part of the general attaching to the range. And they're limestone, which is why you get that kind of striation kind of effect back there. That's what did it for me. You saw the ridgeline where it's kind of choppy and sawtooth. In fact, you're seeing it kind of again here, there. That very sawtooth kind of impact. It's where you have softer material in the rock and you get that kind of, again, there too. It's not as smooth as you get in some parts of the Alps where you have more igneous materials. Now, it does cover the areas around kind of Verona, southern Tyrol, which is where we are. Udine and Belluno. So it does depend, but that kind of more ridged and structured look is why it felt Dolomite-y to me. It's because this area has it too. It's limestone, so it erodes far more easily. I'm gonna have to... Oh, I'm not gonna... We'll have to see if we can pull over this. This may be a learn my lesson and turn around soon. We're losing a lot of airspeed here. Can I crest up over this carefully? I think we're good, actually. Yes, we're good. Eventually you get a feeling for what you're going to be able to climb over, and this is doable. You kind of learn what's possible in the aircraft. Now I'm at full throttle here. So that's what I mean about the kind of Dolomite look. You get this much more kind of ridgy, sharper, plungy bits. There we go. Nudge her up and over the final bit. Whoopsie daisy. We're going to get very close to the stall. Don't threaten me with a good time. No. There we go. Told you. And there's the valley down there. Oh, look at that engine spooling down there. Look how smooth that is as well. You get the whine picking up there. From the alternator. Oh, that is the alternator whine. That's lovely. Obviously, the alternator's spinning at different speeds depending on the RPM of the engine, so... That's nice. That layered alternator whine on top of everything else. And the RPM dropping away. That is nice. It's the little things, you know? I'm able to hear the alternator whining at this lower RPM. Obviously, we don't want it on. We hit speaker. But I sure as heck want that on. And the vintage gyro sound, because it sounds cool. Alright. Wo ist die Flugplatz? Der? Ja. I'm pretty sure I'm missing something. It's around here somewhere. Oh no. It's to our right. So, oh, there it is. I see it now. We'll do a 217. We'll bring her into land. Nice and easy. Okay. Back to full rich there. Flaps coming down 1 notch. Okay. Now, for those of you who've followed the language struggles of Avangel... Oh, we're getting very slow there. I will knock the gyros off. Anyone who's followed the language struggles of Avangel, I was in Germany for Gamescom last 2 weeks ago. Time is wibbly wobbly right now for me. So I was in the Netherlands and Germany. I flew to Belgium, then to the Netherlands, and then to Germany. I was staying in the Netherlands, visiting Germany for Gamescom and some other bits and pieces. Yeah. And I was quite proud that whilst I wasn't anywhere near fluent or particularly competent, no one switched to English on me. What I did say and what I had to say in the context I was doing it and my answers to people when they asked me questions was enough that they knew what I wanted and they didn't feel the need to switch on me. It was mostly service people, and no, my default thing to every person I was dealing with in a shop was not mit Karte bitte. Thank you. That's not what I was saying. Yes, I realised I can get away with getting through Germany with mit Karte bitte, doch, genau, and ach so. But no, that was not what I was saying. I actually had full sentences to use, and I talked to people. And I had the most absolutely sublime Schwarzwald Kirschtorte and coffee in a little cafe in Aachen before going to see bits of Charlemagne's bones in the reliquary at the Dom. And had Käsebrötchen sitting in the Domplatz listening to an old lady playing Mozart and Beethoven on the violin. It was sublime. Only improved by hanging out with my bestie. Ugh, hello. That's unusual to get stutters like that. Ooh, I don't normally stutter like that. Probably just my computer right now. The rattles are nice. Love the rattles. It had so much to the visceral nature of the aeroplane and the feeling of it. Yeah, I love the alternator whine and the tractory sound. Ugh. That low RPM tractor grunt is just lovely. This is a really delightful little sound pack, and for £10, this has made me want to fly the 172 more. And there's some versions of it I quite like, you know, the cargo one's cool, especially for the career mode. I like the amphibian. But this is just... This has made it enjoyable. And having the steam one, sorry, with this is just perfect. It feels so appropriate. I approve of this, and for £10, $15, I have justified some aircraft being released for the similar prices and for less than this, and pointed out it's, you know, it's a couple of drinks, or it's 1 or 2 drinks in places. I will try to find a comparison. This cost me as much as an avocado toast in Maastricht. Well, less than that actually. That was about €12. Bloody expensive, but it was really tasty. And now I'm nearly parked into a Robinson. That's awkward and embarrassing, so we'll just pretend we didn't run into him. We're not quite. We're okay. Let's make sure the parking brake is on there. There we go. Now we get... Oh, like a glove. Like a glove. See, not even close. The prop would have been completely clear. It was intentional. You're welcome. Yeah, Echo19's precision sound set for the 172. Highly recommend it. Hopefully it'll come to the marketplace. I don't know if it will, but it's definitely available on the Allbuck store. Hopefully it'll come to there soon. And I think this is totally recommendable. It makes a fun experience out of a simple aircraft. Which is what Flight Sim's about. Bye.